forever and ever.
Doctor Sleep was my most anticipated movie of the year since John Wick 3. The Shining is my favorite horror movie, so you can probably guess how excited I was for this film. And I saw this film in IMAX, and the theater was mostly empty, and it was heaven. I loved every second of it. I also had a stomach virus for the past week, and I got better right before I went to see this, which is just insanely lucky. And also, it was I can't talk. Also, it was funny because I was sick during The Shining, but my body this time was like, I'm a chill right now, so like you could just enjoy this film. Anyways, let's get into the review of Doctor Sleep. I love this movie from start to finish, so let me tell you why. The good about this movie, the character work is probably my favorite thing about it. Well, one of my favorite things about it, at least. Character work is super strong in this movie. Ewan McGregor is fantastic in this film. Danny Torrance as a character, you really like. They built him up so well. In The Shining, he was very like a very strange character, and in this movie, they showed or they gave him so much development that like I just thought really like was great because he was a character that I've always wanted to know more about. So it was just really cool to like just see him as a character. And one thing I want to mention is I saw The Shining when I didn't even know they were making Doctor Sleep. So I watched that movie and I had no idea there was a sequel even in the works. So I thought that's just how it ended. So I was like, okay, that was a fantastic horror movie. The Shining's my favorite horror movie, as I said, but like the way that film impacted me, like when it comes to like horror movies, it's just like it did a great job. I just love that movie, and I had no idea who was gonna live or die in that film, and it was perfect for me because then like a few months ago, the Doctor Sleep trailer came out, and I didn't even know that it was a sequel to The Shining, and halfway through the trailer, when they reveal that, I yelled out, "No way!" and that was just really cool. Let's get back into the review though. There is a lot of suspense in this film. This movie is very suspenseful, and I cared about these characters so much. I just thought the suspense was handled really well, and I grew attached to Ewan McGregor's Danny Torrance character because, like, I just really cared about him, and it was really just interesting to see where he ended up in life. And the first 30 minutes of the movie, or like 20, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes into the movie, as you see him as this character, I thought I was just like I really felt the emotion of like the situation he was in, and I thought Ewan McGregor just handled the character perfectly. And Rebecca Ferguson is great in this movie. She's a great villain, very memorable villain, and I thought all the characters were great. And just like the suspense in this movie, has a lot of suspense, and it's also a lot more violent than The Shining, but like this kind of makes sense because you're able to accomplish more things today. And The Shining was more of a psychological thriller, psychological horror thriller. This one's more of like a fantasy thriller with some horror thrown in it, but this is really not a horror movie. It's just a really, really well done thriller. Another thing I want to talk about is the theme in this movie. The soundtrack is very similar to The Shining. In fact, they actually use the Shining theme, which is awesome. And there's an ongoing theme throughout this whole film, which I loved. It's just a theme where, like, uneasiness. It's just like a theme of just like complete uneasiness and just like, just suspense. I don't know how to describe that any better, but like it's just throughout this whole film, and I loved it. And this movie has a lot of memorable scenes. In fact, a scene that I wasn't quite expecting, but I loved it every second of it. You guys might know what I'm talking about, like if you saw the movie already. If you don't, I won't ruin it. But yeah. This film is also very smart and makes choices that does steer the movie in like really good directions. And I just loved every choice they made in this movie, or at least most of them. Yeah, I basically liked every choice they made in this movie because this movie was just thrown in so many directions that like I loved it. I loved the pacing they were at. I loved just the direction they were going in. And this movie is slow paced and focused on character, and that's why it's so great. This movie's focused on showing the suspense and like just not the suspense, but like the characters and what they're going through, and like how Danny Torrance is just like, he's struggling, and you could see that he's traumatized by things that have happened, but he's trying to cope with that. And I think they do a thing at the beginning of the movie that, like, I thought it was a cool choice. But there's this one plot point that I think they could have made go like a little farther. But yeah, I like what they did. And this is exactly my type of horror film, a slow burn, kind of psychological horror thriller. The Shining was more of that, and this movie's not as good as The Shining. Y'all knew that, but I didn't even want it to be as good as The Shining, because then that would have just messed up my brain. But I wasn't expecting it to be, but I wanted this movie to be great, and it was great. And this is just exactly my type of horror film. I loved it. And this was rivaling my favorite movie of the year. And it's not my favorite movie of the year, but it was close. It was really close. I would say it's my second favorite of the year so far. Now let's talk about my minor issues. These are just minor flaws. My only minor flaws are some casting of certain characters can be very off-putting at times. That's all I'm going to say. And I think the final act could have been a bit better. And it's a good final act, but not as good as the rest of the film. But that's only like the last 20 minutes. I love this film. I was so excited for this movie, and it didn't let me down one bit, and I'll give Dr. Sleep an A. A few minor flaws, but still, I loved it so much. And it's in my top 20 favorite films of all time. Guys, it's that good. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon, and I'll see you guys next time.